Hey Zara,
Hi, Kino. Hi.
how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about you?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm just thinking to myself, you probably had that smile on your face even before we could come on, and it just like went with you into the show.
Yeah. I guess.
But what I always say to anybody on the other shows is that for somebody to just come in with a smile is so good. It's so like great for me, It like just brightens up the mood before you could even get into a chat or conversation. So thank you. But okay, what's making you smile so much though?
Sorry?
Whoa, whoa. What does make you smile though? Coming into the show.
Uh, I. This is not the only place that I smile. When I'm having meetings with my mentors, and I just smile, and they ask me the same question, and I don't have any answer. It's just when you're spending time with people who you truly admire, just it comes. So.
Yeah, very true. I'm the same. I'm the same. So that's something that we also have that's similar to each other, always smiling. I remember when I was in school, I had this habit of laughing to absolutely anything. like I was that guy sitting in the classroom, while the teacher is trying to do her job, teaching whatever she is teaching, which is no relevance to how the real world works anyway. And you just hear this huge laugh, coming from the deck of the classroom.
Oh, that's
So I was like, hey, yeah, yeah. Then actually, I should get into trouble. I should get into trouble a lot about it. I don't know. Like everybody has some unique signature, you know, that defines that person. For me, it's my laugh. Like at times where I'm sitting now, okay, in the studio. So just next to me is the road and there's a park opposite. At times I would be on a podcast and I will laugh, and people downstairs can actually hear me laughing. So the next day when I'm going downstairs, they're like, yo, what was going on last night? We heard you laughing. So instead of giving a response, I just start laughing again. know? I don't know. I'm weird like that. What can I say?
it's beautiful. Sometimes I'm listening to your podcast and I just hear the laughing part and I laugh too. It's beautiful.
And I
Yeah.
also got told that I laugh in paragraphs. So it'll be like, ha 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 ha. Take a deep breath. Ha, 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 ha. Take a deep breath.
The minor sentence, I guess.
Yeah, but from what I've read, they say laughing is good for your health. So at least I'm keeping myself healthy in that way, you
Yeah.
know, since I'm not making it to the gym as much as I would love to.
That's funny.
So,
Another
Zara,
day.
how was the birthday? Tell me all about it.
The birthday. Well, it was awesome. I loved the video. I was at the beginning of the video was 35 minutes, and at the beginning of the video I was crying because I was seeing my mom saying, nice words. You don't usually hear that. Those kind of words when you're like in person and you're living with your mom. But yeah, I was crying, and then there were some of the parts. It was so well edited. I would love to show you that video later, maybe. Um, some of the parts were funny, some of the parts were again sad, and I was just crying and laughing at the same time. And sometimes I was just looking and focusing on what that person is talking about. And yeah, it was awesome. It was the most beautiful birthday.
Yeah. Well, it was an honor for me to be a part of it. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it, but it happened.
Me too. I was just asking, how did you find him? And yeah, she was one of the best people I've ever known. She's very active and she's so different than other people that I've seen. Now, the way they do is different. And yeah, so I'm glad they know her. They know her.
Yeah.
Not the way that I wanted to introduce you guys, but still.
Well, clearly she saw something out there. I mean, when I got the email, you know, she was so cool and calm and polite, and she was apologizing because, you know, we live in this era where, and I get this a lot, right? Where there's a lot of people who want to scam you. Okay, authors will get like these emails from these so-called marketers saying, you know, we can market your book and we can boost up your reviews. And if you're in the music industry and if you got a strong presence online, you'll get the same marketers reaching out to you that, hey, you know, we can boost your streams, but they're using bots, right? They're using bots, and unfortunately, there is still people that fall for it. But the crazy part about bots, just off topic a bit here, which a lot of people don't know about the music industry, is that the top 1% of the artists around the world are allowed to use bots and they don't get penalized for it. So at times we will, you know, I'm going to use Taylor Swift as an example. She releases a new track. In 1 week's time, it's like number one on the Billboard chart, and it has like over 2 million streams or 2 billion streams in the first week. And people are like, wow. The thing is, in the music industry, like your Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube, they allow these artists to have 10% bots as part of their streams. And that's what some people will consider the dark side of the music industry because each party makes money that way. Remember, the agreement that Kino has with Spotify, distributing his music to Spotify, is different to a mainstream artist. So it all comes down to money, you know, that's bottom line. So 10% is a lot of streams. Now, say for example, one of my tracks gets to 1 million streams in the first week, Spotify comes after me. You know, they want to penalize me, they want to red flag me, they want to take my music down because now they consider me a cheat, you know, because I'm an independent artist. So, you know, those are the battles and struggles that independent artists, you know, face in this day and age. But anyway, back to the story. So, you know, I get a lot of these emails on a day to day, you know, people are saying, you know, we can offer you this and this. But after so much experience, you can really tell when someone is being genuine with you. You know, you pick up on keywords in the email. So when she sent me the email, I was like, cool, you know, straight away. I didn't even have to think about it. I knew, cool, no, this is legit. And she even invited me on LinkedIn. So I'm like, okay, that's like more credibility for me. But she was so cool, you know. She says, you know, it's like not the way that, you know, to reach out to somebody and she understands, you know, what I've just been talking about, you know, not in so many words, like, is this a scam? And I'm thinking to myself, no, this isn't. You know, she presented herself extremely well on the email for me to say, okay, cool, you know, I'll send you the video as soon as possible. And yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah. And she's in the real life, she's just like that. She's so cool, and it's you can feel that. And it's just like she came out of the, let's say, Dharma hole, like right after the meditation. It feels like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Nice. No, she's a cool person, and I'm so grateful that, you know, given your history, you know, and all that I have learned about you from day one, you know, that you have so much amazing people like in your life, you know, whether they're there with you personally, whether they're here in South Africa, you know, I'm grateful that you have, you know, this network of people who really care about you. So I'm glad you enjoyed the video. And yes, I would love to see the video
Yeah.
whenever. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, right after I turned 20, it was one of the main points that I realized in life that I have the most amazing community with me. And I was just so happy that she made me realize that. I was thinking, I was talking about how I want to spend my birthday by myself, but then I just realized no, there is no reason to do that because I do have this community with me, and that's all we want. Sometimes I think the happiness is about the community with you. The happiness comes when you have people around you that you love them, that can support you in the worst and the best time, and that's when you feel happy. Otherwise, if you have millions of dollars, of course you will be happy at the beginning, but it does not last. It will be normal for you. And yeah, in your sickness, in your health, at any time, they will be with you. So I was just so happy to realize that at my early 20s.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But it's also, your aura, because you so like, happy yourself and you grateful and you all about just being positive as much as possible. As I said, coming onto the show and smiling straight away. It's just like you shining positivity into the world. So the universe responds a positivity right back into one's own life. Instead of like everyone has challenges in life, but it depends how you embrace those challenges. Now, if you have a challenge that you need to overcome, but you approach it in a manner that, why is this happening to me? I feel so sad and depressed, which look is natural for all of us. We've all been through those moments, and at times it does still happen, even to me. But after it happening over and over again, you sort of realize, okay, cool, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. So whatever this challenge may be, I'm going to embrace it with positivity because life itself is full of challenges. And depending what your goals are in life, you're always going to encounter challenges. And if you set your goals this high, the universe is going to take you level by level. That's going to come with its own challenges. And you need to overcome that challenge to get to the next level. No different to playing a video game, right? And that's what life is about. So, at the moment you just walk into the challenge with a smile on your face and saying, you know what, I am going to overcome this because there's a lesson I can actually take away from it, it's so much easier to get through, so much more easier to get through. That's possibly, what I can say that I have learned for myself from experience, not reading some book or listening to a podcast. It actually does work. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good
So aside
sign.
the video, oh, sorry, can finish.
Uh, well, I guess I didn't get your question.
No, 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 I never asked. I was just ending off with that, and then I was just going to ask you, like, besides the video, what else did you get up to on your birthday?
Oh, yeah. On my birthday, I went to the restaurant that I told you because sometimes, not always, but sometimes, very rarely, I'm just tired of Indonesian food. So I just try to go to, as you said, I miss my Western part because in Afghanistan, I feel like there is a mix of two cultures, Western and Eastern culture. And you can have like the Chinese food, and then you can go and have a slice of pizza. But here, it's a little different. It's just, I think it's not as Western as I expected it to be. So sometimes I just miss that part. And that's why when I do have the chance, I just go and enjoy myself. I went to an Italian restaurant and I didn't do anything crazy. Not at all. I guess I'm boring.
You're not boring at all. You're not boring at all. So, for listeners, welcome to No Scripts Attached. Now, there's a reason why Zara mentioned do anything crazy. Okay. So, and I'm going to mention why in a bit. In a bit. So, we actually tried out, recording the first episode last week, and it was a good conversation. I just had like huge technical issues that were happening on my end, and it's not the only show it's happened on over the last 2 weeks. So I'm trying out something new today. So I just felt, for the first show, let's just redo it. And I feel this one is like flowing much more better. And I think it also gave you an opportunity just to get into it, because now no longer are you a guest on a podcast, now you hosting a podcast. So, for the listeners, this is called No Scripts Attached, as I just mentioned. And this is the new and latest show under the Kino Isaac network. So, I'm going to share my screen of the Kino Isaac network not Facebook website page. That is the logo, of course, abbreviated KIN, Kino Isaac Network, Global Podcasting Communications Network. Now, this was a network that I started in 2025, so it's fresh. It's fresh. And this wasn't a goal I could have anticipated for myself in 2021 when I started off the Kino Isaac podcast. But yeah, I am today. I mean, there's a lot of things like that are happening that I could have never dreamt of happening. And this is just the beauty of trusting the process, loving what you do, putting your heart into it, not being too concerned about the financial overheads or what am I taking away from this. And by me starting my own podcast in 2021, 3 years behind the mic by myself, it finally gained a strong presence online. The PR agencies started reaching out to me because they wanted me to host their clients, bring their guests onto the Kino Isaac podcast, which is a space dedicated to all creatives around the world. From there, it led us to creating. I'm just going to scroll down a bit. It led to creating Talking Back to Suicide with Dr. Diana Kaufman, who is based in the USA, and she's a retired child psychiatrist. And because we were both advocates for mental illness, we decided to launch Talking Back to Suicide under the network as well. And you can catch a new episode of that each and every single Tuesday. Of course, with amazing guests from all around the world, not only physicians or a psychiatrist, but people that have actually gone through mental illness themselves, people who have attempted suicide and survived and have come out more enlightened out of that experience, that they come on to share their experiences so we can bring those numbers down, which just seems to be climbing, climbing. And I got an issue with that. But if you want to know what those issues are, tune into Talking Back to Suicide. On the Kino Isaac podcast, I met a phenomenal guy and author called Don Sawyer, who Zara is familiar with. And I mean, he came onto the show to talk about his book and his writing career. And as always, the conversations are so diverse. Don and I started talking about you know, global issues and what's going on in the world and tribalism and the hatred that people have towards each other, whether it be race related, religion related, whatever it may be. So we decided, okay, let's start a podcast called Creating Team Human. And the mandate of this podcast is to close that gap between tribes around the world, at any level. And to sum it up, just to get people to understand that we're all humans and we need to be working hand in hand with each other. So not only do we grow ourselves personally, but we also grow the world in a much more better direction than we're going with now. And then in 2026, Kino Isaac and Zahra Amiri launches No Scripts Attached. Now, I'm also going to Okay, let me. Some. So I'm going to share the website for the Kino Isaac network, and anybody listening is more than welcome to go on to read about it. And there's definitely more awesome, dope stuff to come. So let me stop sharing that. And I just want to bring up one more screen before we continue. And there we go. That's the official flyer. So, Zara, what was your first thoughts when you saw this flyer?
I was thinking, how did you do that? Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, being a 50% content creator, we work our magic one way or the other, to get the perfect flyer out there. But yeah, as long as you loved it as much as I did, we good to go. So for the listeners, that was sorry, what were you saying?
I feel like it will come true.
Yeah.
When people.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So if anybody goes on to Instagram, either my account or Zara's account, or you go on to Facebook, you will see the flyer. And the brief description for No Scripts Attached is as follows. And this is what you can find online. Welcome to No Scripts Attached, a podcast where we tear up the rulebook and throw away the talking points, dedicated to the complex realities of life in the East, hosted by Kino Isaac and Zahra Amiri. As the globe focuses on prosperity and tropical countries in the East, there is a larger story beneath the surface that needs awareness: identity, faith, purpose, education, mental well being, survival, and beliefs. Now, that really does sum it up. And one of my main goals for starting this podcast after chatting with Zara for so many weeks, from 2 to 3 hours, is that the other three shows are more westernized. Even though there is listeners in the East all the way to Australia from the other three shows, I wanted the show that's dedicated to life in the East. And as the description says, which Zara brought up last week, um, you know, people are so focused on the tropical countries, and all that's beautiful and lovely in the East. And look, it is, no doubt about it. But there's also a story underneath the surface. And you raised some critical points last week, and we had a chat, which we'll talk about now. So that sums up what the show is about. Now, before I hand it over to Zara, I just want to keep to my promise of telling people why Zara said she never do anything crazy is because, which is also, related to Western Eastern cultures. When I was explaining to Zara last week about, what we do if you grow up, more westernized cultures, we go crazy for our birthdays, and we're in South Africa as well, which is more westernized than East. You go crazy for your birthday. So it's like this whole day party, whole night party. And if your birthday falls on the weekend, it's the whole weekend. You celebrating the whole weekend. You're only going to sleep on a Sunday night. That's how bad it can get. So that is going crazy. And anybody listening from the West or in South Africa, you will understand this. You're probably laughing right now listening to what I'm saying because you know it's true. And I grew up with that same culture, you know, where if it came to your birthday, look, let's go crazy. It's time to party it up. And that's exactly what we did, you know. So some deja vu now from what we were talking about last week. So let's start here. Birthdays in the East in comparison to the West. Okay, besides what you have explained to us for your birthday, um, tell us what happens in the East for the average person when it comes to their birthday. What is the difference?
The difference, so I can't talk about the West, but about the East, it's more simple, I think. You know, based on what we see and what we observe around ourselves. I feel like it's simpler. It's more of celebrating with family, celebrating with perhaps friends, and nowadays it's more. It's getting more like the same in all over the world. Sometimes they just spend it with themselves, not not sharing with anyone. But yeah, it's more simple. It's more of like a family gathering and just having a candle and a cake and some gifts, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess not every, I guess if you born in the East, you sort of like adapt to that. That is how it is. Like if we have to stereotype it, for example. But I feel like maybe there's some areas, like if you look at Bali or you look at Kent, like these are party hubs globally. I guess maybe there'll be a small percentage of people where it'll be like, let's go crazy.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, in every country, in every culture, we do have a lot of differences. It's not as if I say this happens in all the Eastern countries. Of course, in one country, in one city, there are some people who want to be just to have their birthday as a quiet day with themselves or with their loved ones. And there is probably another person who wants to go crazy, for example, or just go to, a party or have their own party sometimes, or any way that they want to celebrate it. It's not when I'm talking, I'm trying to have like a more generalized type of that I see my friends, they just celebrated with going out for a lunch or for a dinner with their friends or their parents. And usually that's it. And maybe it ends up with an Instagram story of, hey, happy birthday. Yeah, that's a funny one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I guess that, sums up, that topic. Country to country, culture to culture, things can be different. But when you look at it, from an outside point of view and me being in the center of the globe, you do see the difference when it comes to specific celebrations. I mean, if we look at the Middle East, for example, and not so much Far East, we look at how Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar has become so westernized. And now we have old traditional values actually going out the door, and where people, especially the younger generation, wants to live their life more westernized. So, why do you think that is? For yourself coming from a Muslim background.
Well, social media has a very big effect, of course, because that's what I feel. I feel like before they had their own family traditions, but now it's more of going with social norms as what other people do and they try to do, or to feel like they are connected to the whole world. So that's why everything is getting similar in every country. You find the same thing in an Asian country, like let's say China, and then the same thing happens in a kind of a, I don't say Middle Eastern because it's middle to what, I don't know. It's more of West West Asia country. So yeah, or you can find that in an African country anywhere because of social media right now. Uh, but also cultural exchanges. Right now, there are a lot of interracial marriages. There are a lot of international marriages. It's getting. That's what I think. That it's getting more similar in every place.
Mm. And it's hard to say whether it's good or it's bad. The reason I say that is because I'm all for liberation. And I feel that if a religion or a regime, government, whatever you want to call it, is keeping you back from you freely expressing yourself and doing what you want to do with your life, I see that as a no. You know, like I'm an advocate for that. People need to make their own choices in life. People need to have freedom of thought. That's what I am for. Now, the disadvantage of it, as you said, social media. So I agree with you on that because, and this is happening all around the world. We jump on the social media, we doom scrolling on TikTok and Facebook. We're seeing all these, and there's a high percentage of people that we're seeing on social media that are living fake lifestyles. So I'm putting that out there. But now you see this girl or you see this guy and he's your age and he's partying it up, going crazy, driving a Ferrari, and hey, I want to live that life. So I get that. I get how that can get someone's mind twisted, you know? So you sort of to like find a balance. That would be my advice. Find a balance. It's okay if you want to be liberated, you want to be a free spirited person, you're going to live your life according to your rules, but don't get too caught up in it that you eventually start losing yourself and your values and principles.
Right.
That's what I would say.
True.
Yeah, because it'll come back to bite you one day. It'll really come back to bite you one day, you know. And then you end up all lonely and sad and depressed and then dying by suicide. you know, I know I'm laughing, but it's a reality of the situation. Oh, it's a reality of the situation. Yeah, so that's a key point to mention. Um, I know we want to keep, the first few episodes from 30 to 45 minutes, and that's a good strategic plan. There was something else you said last week that we can touch on, for the next 15 minutes is because you also brought up that, people look at all the tropical countries. But then if you look at China, Japan, and Korea and what's going on there, especially with regards to mental illness and suicide, that was like a spark in my head because we don't hear about that. We hear about mental illness, we hear about suicide mostly coming from the West, because we're so caught up on mainstream media, that side of the world. So, what are you seeing that we are all not seeing in those countries?
Well, just today I was thinking of that. Today I went to the swimming pool and it was so good. The whole pool was surrounded by these flowers and, the sunny weather. It's the warm, sunny weather. And I was thinking that I do want to, we can have in this university that I'm studying, we can have exchange programs to Malaysia, to Korea, but usually we choose Korea because the culture is a little different than Indonesia. And it's kind of a balance between countries being in two different countries. And I was thinking, it feels like I'm on vacation for 4 years that I'm studying here. If I go to South Korea for studying, how would it be? The rate of suicide in Korea is so high. Why should I go there? I was asking this question. Why should I go there? And I just searched about Korea, Japan. Japan is well known for how hardworking people it has, and um, how they are trying their best to build a better country, which they're doing very well. They're kind of rising from the ashes of war, just like Korea, just like Japan itself. And then the history of China was very interesting for me because I just searched about China. They were respecting scholars like a lot, like centuries ago. It was, they have different expressions about education, and it's very competitive as well. And all of them coming together with their crazy school schedules and assignments and homeworks, that all comes together. It puts a lot of kind of pressure on the students, which is very bad for right now. Just think of it, a lot of assignments, you have a lot of assignments, and you have a crazy school schedule, and then when you come home, it's not like you go to a park and play. It's fun. So your body kind of does not rest at all, and this is very bad, that parents should be aware of. But luckily, at these recent years, China and Chinese parents are caring about their child's mental health, and they're trying their best right now, kind of to aware other parents about this problem, because the suicide rate is so high in China, in South Korea, and it's all because of the competition that there is. For example, I'm not sure, in one of the countries in East, they have these tests that I can't even imagine, like from elementary school to the other step, and then it's all like step by step, and you have to take the exams. It's like not breathing at all, and it's crazy how it just goes. And yeah, I mean, just think of it. You don't want to study, it's totally fine. But I also think that when there is a very high competition to achieve something, the only way to release that stress is by studying. That's why they're studying so hard. For example, let's suppose Chinese students. And that's how they release their stress of that competition, that exam, that test. And by studying a lot and not having the balance, sometimes it ends to depression. It's very hard to say, but yeah, but it's getting better as far as I know these days for the Chinese.
Yeah. As you were talking, I'm just thinking that that's like the one similarity between East and West. That's something that's also happening out West, but I don't hear about it, or nobody out West hears about it, you know. So it's good now that you are mentioning that it's happening there, and this is the purpose of the show. Because yes, there needs to be more awareness to the matter, and it's good that Chinese parents are paying more attention to it. The question I do have, or what's going on in my mind now, I'm curious, with a dictatorship and a totalitarian government that we have in China, does that play a role in mental illness and suicide rates? Do you know?
I can say, because at the same time we do have this South Korea, and you can just look and see the rate are so similar, and South Korea is exactly the opposite. So it's so controversial, we can say.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's what I want us to look into more, as we proceed with the show. Because just as we have, talking back to suicide, like mental illness needs to be a component of the show as well.
Yeah.
So this can be a place for people to actually tune into to, you know, firstly see that yes, these people out there that care and we're talking about it. And hopefully, as we proceed with the show, we can share advice and thoughts, and maybe I could bring in some people to also, share their opinions and advice and best practices. But it's going to be difficult because, you know, somebody can say, okay, here's a blueprint for what we may be going through right now. And that blueprint may be compatible for someone living in the West, where there's more freedom when it comes to, the government versus the East. So it's very dependable, where you're coming from. But we're going to learn. That's why we started this. So what I just want to check here really quickly. So we can just have some numbers.
Yeah, and in the meanwhile, you were just talking about the West also. When I compare these two parts of the world, I just feel like the East is more academic and the West can include sometimes creativity into it. But, you're learning something at the same time you're experimenting. So there might be a little difference.
Okay, we're going to explore that. We are definitely going to explore that as we move along. So I just want to. Okay, I'm just getting some info. So, according to the latest stats from the WHO, the World Health Organization, for people who don't know the meaning of that abbreviation, China has 110 between 110,000 to 120,000 suicide deaths annually due to its very large population. So that's a high number.
Yeah, definitely is.
Another stat also says that suicide rates in China are generally higher among older adults. So for me, I feel like the older adults part, like you focused on students, and I completely get why that can happen. But for the older adults part, and I'm going to take a shot in the dark here, I feel it has a lot to do with, there's a word I'm looking for, but the political, oh gosh, I'm just going to say it has a lot to do with politics. It has a lot to do with politics. Okay. And I'm just going to check here. Okay, so one article says there is a growing concern in China around student mental health, suicide risk, depression, academic pressure, and emotional isolation. So everything that Zara has said, especially among high school and university students. What studies show suicidal ideation, academic pressure. China's Ministry of Education and National Health Commission have recently increased mental health initiative in schools because of rising concerns around youth well-being. So that's good, at least, something that's happening there.
Yeah.
Social pressure, mental health stigma, pressure from family expectations,
Yeah, yeah. Social
right?
expectations and family, yeah.
Yeah. And what you mentioned earlier, social media stress. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, this is fascinating, to see certain similarities, between East and West when it comes to the topic of mental illness. So it's global. It's global. So at the top of your head, you know, Well, what would you say we need to do better in the East when it comes to this topic?
We need to know better.
What would Zahra do better?
Okay, coming to the East, what we need to know better, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, what would you do better around the topic of mental illness? Like if you had this magic wand, right? What solutions would you put into place?
Okay, bring changes into kind of the education system in the East, because the education system is crazy. And I've been watching some documentaries a while ago about the education system in the East, and it's crazy. It's like all academics. There is nothing about the sports, for example. There is very less about the sports or experimenting. And I was talking about this whole other Waldorf education system, and I sometimes think that that is so good for the society, for creative thinking, critical thinking, for the children, especially the younger ages. And if I had that magic stick, I would have changed the education system to be more experimental than theoretical.
Hmm, hmm. Well, we can only, share advice and opinions as we move along with the show. And, you know, hopefully, someone catches on to what, you have to say and start saying, okay, let's try this. Let's go for it. Definitely. But those are high numbers, and those high numbers needs attention. And that's exactly what's going to happen on No Scripts Attached. So, as a host, is there anything that you would love to conclude with? Dedicated to the East. So, okay, let me rephrase this. Conclude with what a message that you want to give to students in the East right now. What would you tell them?
Okay, leave your classes, go out, look at the trees, and take a deep breath and just feel alive again.
Yeah, that's something so basic you could do, but so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I as a person who didn't study at high school, I did not have the right, of course. It's way much different than just leaving the school. I think it was a good chance for me to really experience that not studying at school thing. You know, I was studying by myself and I was studying what I wanted to study, and I had the rest of the time for myself. And I did a lot of things. When I compare myself to an Indonesian, for example, student, I find that, okay, I worked at the age of 16, I had my own income in Canadian dollars. And at the age of 18, I left the country. You know, I worked on myself a lot. And right now that I think, it was not because like I had a lot of opportunities. It was because I had time to work on things that really meant to me. I was not in that matrix thing, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope, what you said, gets to someone and they actually, just follow in your steps. These are easy steps to follow, but
Experiencing life from, different people experiencing different things, and then we just try to bring them all together and see what works and what does not. So
yeah,
it's just, yeah.
yeah. That's good. That's good. I like that. I like that. What works and what doesn't work. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, Zara. Well, that concludes our first episode. Touching on a very critical topic. Yeah, and honestly speaking, yeah, this flowed much more better than last week. And I will catch you again next week. Same
Yeah,
time.
see
Not
you.
same time, not same time, but same day.
Our early.
1 hour late, and that was my fault.
No, not at all. We're human, right?
Yeah, we human, especially when there's so many things happening at once. I mean, there's still things happening while this is going on. I'm just surprised, that you can't hear it, so that's a good thing. Because I have to tell him to like be quiet, be quiet. I need to get onto a call, be quiet. But I'll tell you about that after this. Okay, Zara, so I'll see you next week. And for the listeners, this concludes the first episode of No Scripts Attached. Catch you next week.
Yeah, see you. See you next week.
Yeah, bye. Not bye. Catch you later. Catch you later. Catch you later.
Catch you later. Yeah.
Yeah.
See you.
Right. Catch you later.